Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. Boy, do I have a treat for you today. I am talking with Elizabeth Sherman, who empowers women in midlife to have optimal health. And most of her solutions are very personalized to her clients, but she also has so many great practical tips on just living life with this vitality. And you will feel her vitality radiating throughout this entire podcast. She is a wealth of wisdom, and I just really enjoyed her perspective on so many things because it really gave me food for thought. It really put me up against these perceptions or these thought processes that I've had and why it is that I have them and should I continue to have them. And that might be about perimenopausal symptoms. It might be about decisions that I'm making. It might be about self-care. Doesn't really matter. The things that she suggests, I can apply to just about anything in my life. And I cannot wait to hear about the takeaways that you have from this episode. Elizabeth, we are talking about a lot of things, womanhood, and it's going to be really hard to hone in, I think, on one specific thread of a conversation that impacts women, but it's going to go where the conversation goes. And I'm looking forward to hearing about your insight and wisdom when it comes to women rediscovering themselves, reclaiming a little bit of me time, trying to redefine what health means at this midlife stage. So thank you for being on the podcast.
I'm really looking forward to having this conversation too, because it's exciting. It's my passion. It's going to be great. Yeah.
And you have a podcast too.
I do. It's called Total Health in Midlife.
So you're very focused on women who are going through any midlife thing, whether they're a mom, they're perimenopausal, maybe they're in menopause.
Right. Yeah. So it's so funny because people ask me all the time, what do you define as midlife? Okay, everyone. Now, don't get hurt about this. But when we self-identify as midlife, it's probably around 50. But if you really think about it, midlife is the middle of our lifespan. And for many, that's probably closer to 40.
If you're talking averages.
Averages.
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing
Averages.
you.
So a lot of people tune out when they hear midlife because they're like, I'm 40, I'm 45, I'm not midlife, right? So any woman who's experiencing perimenopause, menopause, I help women improve their health so that their health doesn't get in the way of the things that they want to do in life. And so I work with my clients in the areas of eating, physical activity, stress management, sleep management, body image, and I do it all through a feminist lens, but I also have a certification in women's hormonal health. So what I do with my clients is I help them manage their hormonal symptoms naturally, doing it through lifestyle.
Okay, even though some people are going to be like, but I'm not 50 yet, so I'm not going to say that I'm in midlife. I get that. Like, we never really want to age ourselves. But what I appreciate about what you're saying, though, is it's important to know, I think, the things that we need to be aware of and the things to watch for so that we can do something about it. We don't just let this experience happen to us. We're much more intentional about doing the things that we need to do to have that transitional phase be the smoothest it possibly can be. And I know I'm 41, and what's so funny when I hear the term midlife, like that doesn't scare me. And it's actually a term that I've come to accept. I don't want to say it's this label that I've put on myself, but I identify with that now because I feel like when you've lived 40 years or you've lived 50 years, you've lived a lot of life. You have a broader span of knowledge than you did when you were in your 20s or even in your 30s.
Yeah. And it's really actually very fascinating to me going through it myself. So I'm 56. The evolution that I've taken as far as my health goes, as far as my health habits go, how I think about health has changed. And I think that it's just a natural progression for many women. When we were 20s and in our 30s, we thought about eating and exercise in a very different way. It was more about body image, it was more about looking good. And as we move into midlife, it becomes more about feeling good and then also preparing our body for what that next stage is. One thing that I hear from a lot of women is that I don't want to be frail when I get older. And so then there's an even next layer, which is why do I exercise? And it's because I do it so that I can preserve the things that I want to do in the next chapter. I want to live independently. I want to be able to walk down the street and not break a bone if I fall. So,
Mhm.
how we think about our health and our health habits actually change as we move through the different stages of life. Yeah.
So you're almost speaking to it like it's more biological in some ways. Like it's not even totally societally influenced, which is what I think we often think of when we think about our health or exercise trends. It's like, well, what is everybody else doing? Oh, everybody else is going to this particular gym or they're doing this type of exercise, like cardio or dance routines. You're saying it's more that's just a natural progression of being a human, that our bodies almost have this awareness of what we're going toward. And so therefore there's this natural pull mentally to have to start thinking about things differently. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I've never thought about it that way. I love the question. I think what tends to happen is as we move through the different stages of life, the conversations that we're having with other people our age and with our doctors are starting to change. So, one of the first things that you might notice is that when you get together with your friends, instead of talking about the new Taylor Swift album or the concert that you went to, the conversation starts to shift and you start to talk about diagnoses. You start to talk about injuries. You start to talk about medications and insurance and all of these things that you never talked about before as a younger person because they just weren't on your radar. And it was like, oh, yeah, whatever. That's for old people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you move into midlife, you start noticing that the conversations start shifting and you start thinking internally like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. How do I prevent that? I mean, I'm not at the stage where my friends are breaking bones or having injury or not being able to live independently yet, but I do have clients who are at that stage and their partners are passing away. And so they're thinking, where do I want to live? And so I think it starts to become a concern.
Yeah, I think that that's a really valid point. My friends are a little above me in age, and some of them are a little below me in age. So late 30s, and then right in their early 40s, and then almost 50. And so we really hit this broad spectrum, and you are 100% accurate in describing how those conversations change. Because even our girls' trips, I would have said 6, 7, 8 years ago, those conversations were very different than they're starting to be now. And funny enough, we had one of the girls who came with us who just had a screw put in her foot because she has a fracture, right?
Yeah, well, and there's actually a hormonal reason why some of these things change. So hold on to yourself. This is great. And I love sharing this little tidbit. When we are younger women, it's in our best interest to reproduce. And so we have higher levels of estrogen. Estrogen is actually a make nice hormone. As we move into perimenopause and menopause out of our reproductive years, it's less important to reproduce anymore, right? Our body is preparing for us not to reproduce. And so our estrogen levels drop. And along with that estrogen level dropping is also our I don't give an F.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what people think of me. And so for
Yeah.
any of you who are listening, who are like, oh my God, I saw that happen with my mom or my sister or my cousin, or I'm going through it right now, it is evolutionarily purposeful. And so we come into our own and we're like, hey, this is who I am. And a lot of women I notice go into perimenopause with our heels dug in. I know I did. I was like, I don't want to change. I don't want to change. Like my body's changing. And, I totally get it. Like we start having these experiences where we're having hot flashes. We can't drink as much as we used to. We're having insomnia. Like all of these things are changing. And we're like, I don't know what is going on. Can I just have it back the way that it was? And so we go into perimenopause with our heels dug in. But I can tell you that once you're on the other side, it is freaking amazing. There is just this freedom. Like you don't care what other people are thinking about anymore. And you just feel like this is amazing.
Yeah, a lightness.
Yeah.
Like you've had all this drama of going through these big changes that make you feel like you don't know your body, to where all of a sudden you're past that and it's like, okay, now we're calm. You're beyond the storm.
Yeah.
You can take a breath. I feel a little bit like the stage that I'm in right now, I am seeing different symptoms of perimenopause. So it's like I have had a lot of breakouts. I'm not even a breakout kind of person on my skin, and I have had so much acne, and that lasted for like a month and a half. And then before that, it was some weird weight gain. Now I am experiencing pretty severe anxiety, similar to when I stopped breastfeeding. Yeah. And it's heavy. It's not fun to go through it, which to your point is why I think we dig our heels in, because it's just not fun. It feels exhausting and it feels like, why is this happening? Why am I experiencing this all of a sudden? And even if you know the why, it's sort of like when you get your period every month and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot. Like, why am I behaving this way? Oh, duh. Like, hello, my period's coming. Kind of forgot that happened a month ago.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I find that in midlife, all of our bad habits get a spotlight on them. If you are running away from relationships, or if you don't have a good relationship with food or exercise or your body or whatever it is, midlife shines a light on that and exposes it as you need to work on this now. And I'll admit that sometimes we just get anxiety. Like there is thought work that you can do around that to help reduce your anxiety and understand, why am I experiencing this? Oh, it's because I had an argument with my friend the other day and it's just weighing on me. But sometimes it doesn't help to know the why, and it just is. And so then in that case, I've gotten really good at just feeling the anxiety and dealing with it in more healthy ways. So we were talking about exercise before. One of the things that when I wake up and I feel anxious, I go for a run because I know that it is going to make me feel so much better, rather than putting the covers over my head and just going back to bed. So really understanding, how do I need to manage this so that it doesn't disrupt my life?
So speaking through your experience, and then you've worked with a lot of women going through these big transitions, what would you say are the most common things that you see with women experiencing these stages? And what are some really practical things to focus on if you're going to focus on anything?
Well, and that's the problem with health advice, right? I don't take any advice from bros anymore. Yes. Anyone who is not in my stage of life, I just don't take advice from them anymore, because they don't know what it's like. They have a partner who's doing all of the work for them. So I totally understand that women feel like self-care is just another freaking checkbox on their to-do list. And how we want to deal with that is, one, I believe that you can totally half-ass your health. Like you can. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to be vegetarian or eat this rigid rule of whatever the diet is. In fact, I have a client right now. She came to me and she was like, I really want to do the Dr. Furman diet, but every time I do it, I fall off of it. So first I talked to her about, what is it that you like about it? And she said, I feel really good on it. Great. Okay. So can we take this diet so that you are doing it, but you're doing it 75%, and it's the Diane diet instead of the Furman diet? I think that that's what tends to happen with us a lot is that we're like, well, I have to do all of these things in order to be successful. And I think that it's also important. We just passed New Year's. And what tends to happen for many of us is that we have this overflowing plate of responsibilities. And as the new year comes along, we're like, okay, I want to be healthier. So we precariously perch our health habits on top of this already overflowing plate of things that we need to do. We have to go to work. We have to take care of our kids. We have to do all of these things, be the good partner, be the good friend, be the good daughter. We have so many obligations. And when life gets busy, because we haven't really integrated these habits into our lives, they're the first things to fall off. And as a result, too many women feel like crap about themselves. And it does not have to be that way. So, to answer your question directly, there are things that you can do that will lean into better health. So, opt for having an additional vegetable. Seriously, eating vegetables is one of my huge tenets because I like working on the principle of what's called displacement. Displacement is the idea that, for example, if you have a glass of water and you put an ice cube into it, the ice cube is displacing the water, right? And so when you add more vegetables into your diet, you are displacing the junk food that you don't want to be eating. So instead of having chips, and I could have positioned that with, instead of having chips, eat a salad. But like, are you really going to want to do that? No. So eat the salad. And if you want the chips, you can have them, but you probably aren't going to feel like eating it after you've had the salad. So really prioritize vegetables, prioritize water. I drink 1 glass of water before I drink my coffee. It's a really simple, easy thing to do, and it makes sure that I get more water into my diet. So those are 2 things. I actually have a guide and checklist. It's called the 8 Basic Habits That Healthy People Do. And in that guide and checklist and the email sequence afterwards, I explain how to incorporate these things into your life. Another one is, if we're talking about activity, go for a walk. It doesn't have to be a long walk. It can be 5 minutes. Now, if you're hearing me say 5 minutes and you're like, yeah, but Elizabeth, that's not going to do anything. We're not doing it because we want it to produce results. We're doing it to create self-trust, because I find that so many of us, so many women, do not have trust with themselves. We have commitments to ourselves, and then we break them for commitments to other people because we feel needed. And so this 5 minutes of exercise is really about starting to build trust with yourself, making it so super simple so that you can start to add to it then. Those are just 3 things that I wanted to share.
I really appreciate that you talked about not having it be about results. I think oftentimes we think if we're going to prioritize this or we're going to spend time on this, then the result has to be worth the effort expended in order to make that a priority. And to your point, when you take the results out of it, well, one, it lessens probably that crappy feeling of, oh my gosh, here's yet again another thing that I didn't do, and then therefore I'm not going to get this result that I wanted. But second, it doesn't make it feel like a chore because it isn't about that thing. It's just simple. It's just the doing. I'm just going for a walk. I'm just walking for 5 minutes. I'm just walking to the mailbox and I'm going to add like a block and I'm going to come back around, right?
Exactly.
Like it doesn't feel so intimidating. I'm going to start the new year and I'm going to do 40 minutes of exercise every single day, 5 days a week.
Right.
That's too much.
Well, and you were talking about anxiety earlier. And so one of the benefits of walking is that it shifts your state so that if you notice, some emotions feel like they need to be out of your body. And some emotions like sadness and shame, we are more still. Okay. So if you're feeling an emotion that feels fidgety like anxiety does, doing something with your body can actually shift that emotion and get you out of it faster. There's actually a lot of benefit to just going outside to the mailbox because you're doing something different than just sitting there eating chips or cookies or whatever it is.
I really like that. And I actually had never really thought about the different feelings that make us still compared to those that need to get out. And you're right, the anxious feelings, it makes you feel like you just are going to jump out of your own skin. Like, I don't know what to do with this. It's buzzy. And to your point, if you don't move your body, if you do just stay still, that emotion in particular has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It just keeps sitting and perseverating.
Yeah. And like, if you can't walk, clean a closet.
Right. Exactly.
Rage
Yeah.
cleaning.
That'll make you feel better too. Yes. I know my husband always knows when I'm upset because I'm always cleaning or purging or what. He's like, okay, what's going on? Where are we at today? And it's funny too, when you mentioned the coffee thing, because I have actually started doing that this year. I have made myself drink 2 glasses of water before I'm allowed to have my coffee because I really enjoy my coffee that I make at home. Like, I put a little bit of honey in it. Mentally for me, I actually don't even like coffee, but the honey and whatever makes it sweet enough that I enjoy it. It's just a treat for myself to sit and enjoy in the morning. But I've made myself drink 2 glasses of water before I'm allowed to have it because I am terrible when it comes to water consumption. It's so bad.
Yeah. And like, another thing would be to drink water between your cups of coffee or between your glasses of wine or whatever it's that you're trying to minimize.
We talked about this just a bit before the podcast, but the being needed. And how we tend to get into this self-sacrificing perspective. And being a mom, I've seen so much out there where women are a little divided on this topic in particular of self-care as a mom. I feel like the group of women who are like, self-care is important so that I can give back to my kids. So these are the things that I'm doing to take care of myself so that I can be the mom that I want to be. And there's very much this other group of women that are like, but this is sort of what you signed up for. And it's just this phase of life that you're in that's going to be busy and it's not really about you. And that's also part of being a mom. What are your thoughts on sort of those two camps? And why self-care does matter, why the glasses of water matter, why it's important to displace the food that makes us feel crappy with food that's going to make us feel better.
Yeah, that's a heavy question. To go to the first camp that you were talking about, you need to take care of yourself so that you can help your kids. That's kind of like the oxygen mask analogy. And I just want to say that I abhor the oxygen mask analogy. The oxygen mask analogy is that you put on your oxygen mask so that you can help others. What I believe is that we put on our oxygen mask because you are a person deserving of oxygen. You deserve to take care of yourself because you are a person. 2 questions that I'm going to share with y'all that I love to have my clients ask themselves is, what would I do if I loved myself? And then the second question is, how do I want to show up in this relationship? Now, there aren't any clear-cut answers to those 2 questions. So let me give you a scenario. Let's say that you are heading out the door to yoga class. Got your yoga mat underneath your arm. You get a call from your kid. Mom, I forgot my band uniform at home. I need you to bring it to me. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't have it. So now you have a decision to make. You can either blow off yoga, get charged for it, bring your kid the band uniform, or you can go to yoga. Okay? There's no right answer here. What I love about what would I do if I loved myself is it doesn't require that you actually love yourself. Right? It's just like a theory, like, oh, if I loved myself, what would I do? Okay. And so maybe you would go to yoga because you're like, I really need this right now. I really need some serenity. I need some connection with other people. I need to move my body. Now, the other question, how do I want to show up in this relationship? Again, maybe this is the first time that your kid has done it and he or she is a really good kid and never forgets anything and you don't want them to get docked, right? And so then you might decide, I'm going to bring this to them. But maybe they're 18 years old and you're like, well, the circumstances around the situation are going to decide whether you do one or the other. And so self-care doesn't have to be black and white, but it's about acknowledging, why am I making the choices that I am making, and do I feel good about them?
And I could see how asking either of those questions would get you to an answer that would probably sit the best with you, because you are either really doing what you need for yourself in that moment, and you're being real with yourself about that, saying like, no, actually, I really do need to go to yoga today. If I don't go to yoga today, I'm going to absolutely snap lose it,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to feel good about that decision because you really needed it. Or you're going to say, to your point, this is a kid who is a really good kid. They never forget anything. This is their first time. It's the first day of fifth grade in a new school, whatever. Like, let's not start off on this foot. And then to the question of, who do I want to be in this relationship, or how do I want to show up in this relationship, is, I want to be the parent that gets my kid. I understand my kid. I know my kid. I know that this is a one-off situation and we're not going to start the school year out this way. So therefore, I'm going to show up in this way. I could see how that would just get you to so much more clarity in asking those two questions, versus it being like, am I a good mom because I'm going to show up and give them the thing, versus a bad mom, like putting labels on it of like, this is the right or wrong or good or bad.
Exactly. And one of the emotions that I am very familiar with is resentment. And we feel resentful when we don't get what we want. When I ask myself those two questions and I'm clear about my reasons, I may not be getting what I want, but I don't have resentment then, because I am making that choice from a fully transparent place.
Yeah, because I didn't think about that either. Is there's a repercussion to when you do make a decision to be self-sacrificing, so to speak. You're still punishing the person for making you do the self-sacrificing. Yeah. So in some ways, then it's actually not that selfless of a decision to show up and bring the band uniform, because you're still going to hold it against them, even though you're making the choice to show up. That's interesting. I didn't think about that flip side of the self-sacrificing decision.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And I had never heard anybody talk about the oxygen mask example in that way, that you just simply deserve oxygen because you're a human being. And I think for women, it is very easy to get a little bit lost in the who am I for everybody else.
Yeah.
And not enough on, I am still a human and I still need these things too, just because I'm a human, not because I'm a mom, not because I'm a wife, not because I'm whatever, a daughter, etc. I'm just a human. I love that perspective. So let's use that as a transition into talking a little bit about perspectives on weight, health, things of that nature. What are some of the things that you have to do first before you can do something else, in your opinion? So for example, you can do an hour of exercise, but if you're only getting 4 hours of sleep, the 4 hours of sleep per night is going to be far more detrimental than missing out on the hour of exercise.
To answer one question right off the bat is, if a client comes to me and she's struggling with her eating habits or her exercise or stress or body image or her hormones, even if she's not coming to me for sleep, that is the very first domino that I attack, because sleep is just so incredibly important. And if we don't have the sleep in place, we're not making good choices as far as eating goes. Have you ever noticed that? Like, if you have a really poor night's sleep, you start eating really bad things. And it's because when we don't get a good night's sleep, our cells don't regenerate properly. And so therefore they don't make energy properly. And our brain knows that 3:00 in the afternoon, when we're starting to get a little tired, our brain's like, I need energy. And the cells are like, we don't have any. And so your brain is like, I know what'll solve it: chocolate or cookies or whatever it is your go-to. So when we don't sleep well, we don't make good food choices. We don't have energy to exercise. We get snappish with other people, and that creates more stress. And it also compounds our sleep then, because we're up at 2:00 in the morning thinking about, why did I do that? Or why did they do that? Or whatever. And so sleep is really a core tenet of everything. That being said, from there, a concept that I talk about with my clients is something called the bare minimums. And so bare minimums are those 3 to 5 things that they may not get you to your goal, but you know that if you do these 3 to 5 things, you are going to be healthier than if you don't. And so we use the bare minimums during busy times, like during the holidays or when work gets really busy. Or I also invoke them on vacation. I don't want to say it's an insider tip, but it's something that I personally focus on. And that is when I go on vacation, I drink as much water as I can. I eat every single vegetable that comes across my plate. And then the third one is I pay attention to my hunger levels. So I try not to overeat. Now, when you're on vacation, you're, of course, wanting to experience all of the local cuisines. And so this one is a little bit more difficult, but I eat just enough, not too much. And then I allow everything else to happen. So I eat the special pizza from that location, or I eat the special dessert from that location, whatever it is. But I know that if I'm drinking enough water, if I'm eating enough vegetables, and I'm paying attention to my hunger levels, because no one wants to be on vacation and feel like caca, right? And so if we're constantly overeating, then we're not feeling good. And I notice this more as I'm getting older, that my digestion just isn't that great anymore. And that's normal for a lot of people, that when we're out of our routines, that when we're flying, that we just don't process our food as well. So that's already one strike against me. And so I don't want to add to it by overeating and overeating junk at the same time.
I like that idea of the bare minimums, because then you can just pick your handful of things and focus on that, especially travel. That one resonated with me in particular because we travel with some frequency. And I feel just like when I'm getting into a good routine at home, it's like, oh, now we're gone again. And even if that's only 4 days,
Yeah.
I am not drinking as much water when I'm out and about, because you can't always get up to go to the bathroom. So then I worry too about, okay, if I drink this entire bottle of water and I'm on a plane and then we're experiencing turbulence and I can't get up, now I can't go to the bathroom, blah, 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 right? But if you keep it to some bare minimums, just some really core tenets, it's going to keep you feeling good. And I know for me, like with my exercise journey this last year, it's one of the discoveries that I made, and I told my husband, and now I can call it a bare minimum, is that no matter what, I'm moving my body in some way every single day on vacation. That's become one of my bare minimums, because what I've realized is when I don't do that, if I just go park myself at the beach for a week, it totally derails me. The second that I come home, it's been just long enough that I'm out of that habit, and then it's harder for me to get back on board. So I like that idea of just picking a handful.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow, this podcast flew by. Like we didn't even talk about like empty nesting and me mode, but here we are. So if someone was listening to this conversation, they're like, all right, I need to navigate some of this stuff. I need someone to come in, have a different lens, different approach, and I need some guidance. Where can they find you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, you can find me at my website. It's elizabethsherman.com. You can find me on Instagram. I really like hanging out on Instagram these days, but you can also find me on Facebook. Instagram is elizabeth.sherman.coach, and Facebook is Total Health by Eliz. And if you're interested in that 8 basic habits that healthy people do guide and checklist, you can go to elizabethsherman.com/habits and get the guide there. I find that it just cuts out all of the noise, and it's just really simple things that you can do. Now, it's not going to be revolutionary. Like you're going to read through them and you're going to be like, I know this already. That's fine. But are you doing it? And that's where we want to focus. And I believe that if you are doing the 8 basic habits, that you will never have to go on another diet ever again.
And that would be very freeing.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. The yo-yo dieting.
You brought up weight loss earlier. Most of us have the lifestyle habits that we do so that we can lose weight. So we believe that if I lose weight, I will be healthy. And I want to offer that it's actually the opposite. That if you do healthy things, that your body will right size and your body will be the size that it is meant to be. And so if you're eating vegetables, drinking water, eating protein, getting enough sleep, managing your stress, not eating too much, and limiting your treats, and I just gave you all the 8 habits, that you will then be the size that your body feels good at. When you're focusing on how food makes you feel, when you're focusing on how exercise makes you feel, and you're doing those things from a place of, I want to feel good, instead of, I want to lose weight, it completely flips the script, because then you're eating vegetables because you know that it makes you feel good, not because some diet guru said that you need to eat 5 green beans and a chicken breast for lunch.
And I've always wondered why it is that we're always so focused on the weight loss, because at some point your body is going to get to a weight that it just needs or it just feels comfortable in. And when you can't continue to see those numbers go down, there's this mentality then of like, well, I'm not still losing weight. So now what am I doing wrong? What do I need to change? And it's like, well, no, like it's just, this is just where you need to be. You're not doing anything wrong. You've gotten yourself to where your body can handle it. And then anything really below that, you're having to really fight and start to do really unhealthy things to get it to continue to go lower. It needs to be about something other than just a number, because at some point you're going to hit that number and then what? Like,
well,
now
exactly. What? And that right there, what you just said, is exactly why we want to do a health first approach instead of a weight loss approach when it comes to our health, is because when we get on the scale and we hit a plateau, we are less likely to want to give up, because we know that the things that we're doing, the reason behind them is because I want to feel better, not so that I get the result on the scale. When I'm doing it because it's just what I do and I'm not going to stop doing it, then it completely changes your relationship with those habits.
It's not I'm going to do this until, right. It's just I'm just doing this.
Exactly.
That's what I do every single day. I move my body.
Yeah.
Not I'm going to move my body until I lose 20 pounds and then I'm going to stop moving my body. And then you start all over.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, love it. Love it. Well, and then here we go. We talked about weight. Oh, man. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I greatly appreciate the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Julie. This was just so fun. I loved this conversation, every single piece of it. And I feel like we could have talked for like another hour or two.
Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at WanderModeCo. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.